Welcome to No Buzzwords. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't liked, subscribed, shared our podcast on all the platforms, the YouTubes, the Facebooks, the Spotifys, please do. We're just a small little podcast here in Kitsap that want to grow, but it's up to you to help us grow. You alone can prevent forest fires as well, just so you know. Today in studio, we have a near and dear friend to Michael and I's hearts, fellow salesperson, Jordan Workman from Bainbridge Island, Washington. Welcome, Jordan. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I hope that's a
Appreciate
good introduction. Okay, so you were saying these Yeti cups, this is why...
Yeah, I'm here today. Yeah, because I met my wife, and I worked for Yeti Coolers back when they were just coming out of their mom and pop stage, and kind of taking that, when you couldn't get your hands on stainless steel cups, right? Right when they didn't have any colors or anything like that.
It was just Stanley.
Yeah. Well, Stanley was there, but Stanley wasn't. They weren't up in their game at that point. They were still Stanley and old time, like not as good, right? Their stuff.
Dude, I like Stanley. Come on.
Well, Stanley's great. I mean, they've upped their game since. I mean, Yeti's kind of created this whole new energy towards the cups again and coolers and things like that, and created a whole new industry basically. I mean, with all the different cups that came out after that. But yeah, Stanley now. I mean, they have. Everything that Yeti has pretty much, different colors and everything like that. But yeah, I worked for them for a few years in California, Southern California, when they were just getting started and trying to grow the Southern California market. So I had everything from San Luis Obispo all the way down to San Diego and then east to west. So I had that whole territory. Wow. It was 75% travel, and I would just travel around, live in hotels basically, and just go to all the distributors, open up new distributors. So all the surf shops and a lot of those I opened up early on.
Wow. How old were you?
I was I don't know, maybe I was in my 30s. I was in my like late 30s.
Yeah.
And I got married a little late, like 39, 40. So but I met my wife on Huntington Beach. It was a dog beach there, and our dogs got met first, and we're playing around, and they were stuck on each other. They just kept playing around with each other, and
awesome.
And then turns out me and her were sitting right next to each other. The dogs met and were like connected, and then we came back and we happened to be sitting right next to each other. So she was the prepared one. She brought all the dog treats and all the water, so the dogs came back and they're like all over her,
Yeah.
Did you sell her on a Yeti while you were there? A Yeti cup?
I didn't, but she has plenty of them. She hates that I'm into them, and I buy oh, that's a cool one. I want to get that and see what that's like for coffee,
awesome.
And so I like to try all the different
Are these
ones that
tumblers
come out.
like your favorite style that they've done?
So this is one that I actually my favorite so far is what's called the low ball. It's a 10 ounce. One of the original 10-ounce cups. It's just round, no handle.
Yeah.
It's more like a bar glass almost.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
but I tried this one because it's a little bit taller. You can stack it, which the original one you couldn't. And then this one can still fit under my coffee espresso machine, so you can still kind of get it underneath there to kind of, and it fits the coffee goes right up to there every time. So it's a perfect size. Yeah. And I'm not too big into I like the colors, but they, they kind of fade after a while.
The stainless steel is classy.
this is slick.
It just lasts forever, and it's always going to be nice looking, and you get a few dents in it and even looks better.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
So what makes Stanley so your sales pitch was Stanley, like what made it better than
So
I'm sorry, not Stanley, Yeti.
Yeah.
What makes it better than
worse
Stanley?
Yeti? Yeah.
So the big thing with Yeti and Stanley, at the time that I was there, Stanley was still Stanley. They were still had their cups, and they were kind of left in the dust for a little while. Early on,
the coal miners and cowboys are still using the Stanleys.
Yeah, and so back then it was the Arctic. It was the Walmart came out with their version. It was some of these other ones. Pelican. I don't know if Pelican had Pelican started coming out with the coolers, but you had all these guys that kind of jumped on like right away, especially Arctic, which was out of Houston, anyway, they were, with Yeti, one thing I really liked about them, and I still like about them to this day, is they think about cost last. It's all about using the most durable equipment, testing it, making sure it's durable, and using the most durable materials. And then, okay, how much is it going to cost?
Spare no expense.
So I would say, a lot of them are pretty similar, but if you pick up a Yeti cup and you pick up an Arctic, you can tell there's some, you don't know what it is.
Oh yeah.
It's either the gauge of the steel, it's either the copper inside, because these things are lined with copper. Everyone likes a Moscow Mule, drinking out of a copper cup. It's basically like that, but you can just feel a difference. And I think they put a lot more attention into building it.
And it's dishwasher
So it's going to
safe.
last forever. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Some of these are not
They didn't used to be.
dishwasher safe. Yeah.
They didn't used to be. Yeah, right when they came out, they weren't.
What are dishwashers doing to things that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it really that rough in there?
Maybe it's the heat. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But
Like when I was like, this is supposed to hold piping hot fluid. Why can't it go in the dishwasher?
yeah. I'm not sure on that.
Have you ever made a dishwasher steak? You ever done that?
No.
Oh, dude.
No.
No. It works, dude. It works. I've done
Really?
it. Yeah. You seal it. You seal
it
it,
works.
and then no, dude. It tenderizes it so well. You seal it and then sear it when it comes out of the dishwasher an hour later. It works every time.
Yeah. 60 microplastics.
60% of the time.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Everything
right
melts
in,
into it.
Right. Right. Yeah, you rendered that fat down.
Throw a pot in there too. Just kind of give it an extra.
So now, was Yeti your first sales job?
No. So I actually, I started out in medical and started selling
was
durable
after
medical. Yeah, this was after medical.
Oh, okay.
And actually in between, because what happened was I built my career and went all out after getting into with Johnson & Johnson and doing the medical devices. And I reached a point where I kind of had enough. Like I was done with it. And so I had some friends who had left Johnson & Johnson, went to go work for Yeti early on, very early on, and became some of their top sales guys. And they reached out to me and said, "Hey, we're open in Southern California. Do you want to join us?" And I was like, yeah. So I did that. But what's funny is I went there, had like this, I was single at the time, having this awesome life in Southern California. I was living in Irvine, which is like right in Orange County. They have the most beautiful like apartment complexes with like 10 different pools you can choose to go to.
Gosh, wow.
Everything's in the same, you have a store, I bought a little scooter, so I was driving around and I'd go to the different pools and I had my dog and, it was just me and my dog traveling around everywhere. It was really cool. And then I met my wife, and 75% travel was kind of tough, and realized that, we wanted to start a family fast, and me being, older. And so I actually got a promotion to go back to Johnson & Johnson in Austin, Texas, and work for them because the senior guy was leaving and they had nobody that had relationships. And I was the only one that they could plug back in. So I went back, and I kind of went back just to okay, I'm going to, stay there for a little bit longer, kind of hold my ground until we can find something else and kind of move on from there. So,
and you were kind of like done with that field just because you feel like you'd done
I did everything I could to get into that industry. It was very tough. It's not like you can't just graduate school and just walk into one of those companies.
There's so many sales guys to like that. That's like the pinnacle of what they think.
That's the pinnacle what they think.
You get to that position, and it's like you've made it in sales. You're in medical device sales.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what it feels like, and that's what a lot of people go after it because of that. But there's a lot of glamour in it, But it's like you get there and you're like. There's a few things I didn't like about it. One, the people you're working with, like some of the doctors. Some of them are great. Don't get me wrong. A lot of them have this like
God complex.
The God complex, and the like. Why am I doing all this stuff for you?
Yeah.
Like, why am I going out of my way to do all this stuff for you? And the other thing is, you can never, ever take a break. It's always go, 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 go. If you take a vacation, you have to have someone cover for you in the surgeries and have everything set up. And know how that doctor works, which no one ever is going to know as good as you do how to run a surgery. And so you get in these situations where you leave and it just be hell the entire time because you're just like, this is going wrong. Someone's calling you, and it got to a point where you can't have any mental like break.
And the whole point of that, like in the surgeries for you, so you have whatever device you're selling, you're convincing a doctor or a medical team or whoever that this is the device they want to use full time, and you're just kind of like the guy that's the expert on the device that is there through. Like, how many surgeries did it take before they were like, sign here on the dotted line? Yes, we're going to take these. Or was it more account management and like they had bought it and you're just always there at that point?
Well, a lot of surgeons are trained on certain equipment. So depending on where they did their residency, where they trained, that hospital is either they're like Medtronic or they're Stryker or they're DePuy. DePuy is Johnson & Johnson's line. And so a lot of times when they come out of school, they continue on with the stuff that they're used to, right? They don't want to venture off. Eventually, sometimes they use what they know, and then they'll venture off eventually into other things. They'll get sold on other things. So a lot of times, if it's a new surgeon, you're they're already sold if they're moving into your territory. But if you're trying to win a doctor over who is a Medtronic guy, you're starting with the small stuff like an ACDF plate, an anterior cervical plate, and selling them on little things that are good for certain types of patients that arrive. They present with certain types of things that maybe your plate can address, right? And so you start with little things like that. You get in there, you build a relationship, you get several of those, but the guy who he's working with, the other rep, who's in the big surgeries, everyone wants to do the big scoliosis, surgeries. Those are the big ones, because lots of screws, lots of implants go into those. It's just like it's huge. But
just drooling of those
poor
scoliosis patients.
Yeah, and that guy's doing everything he can to protect his doctor from anyone else. It's a very
cutthroat,
a dog eat dog world. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, those changes are really real. When we were, both Michael and I have quite, we spent quite a bit of time in the medical field. I think 10 years total, probably.
Yeah. What kind of stuff?
I was an emergency tech, so I worked in the ER, and like the God complex with the doctors. Like I had to get to know probably 15, maybe up to 18 doctors and know their personalities. When we have traumas come in, and I would set everything up. I would hand them things. I would know, this doctor likes to be handed things in this order, this doctor in that order. But that changing out of equipment is super real. I mean, even all the way down to, us, the emergency techs. I remember we had all Stryker gurneys forever. And then Hill-Rom came in and started swapping out for these Hill-Rom gurneys. And I hate Hill-Rom gurneys, dude. The Stryker gurneys are so much better. And, and the doctors, everybody was like, these suck. But it was cost effective, I guess. That's why the hospital ended up buying them. So is it the doctors that makes the decisions on buying your equipment, or is it more the hospital?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, if you're not on contract with the hospital with their stuff, you're not going to get. Now, some hospitals will take stuff that is. Like if you don't have a contract with the hospital, that means you don't have a pricing agreement with them. And so usually they like to take your list price, and bring it way, way down. But if you're not on contract, then you're charging your list price, which is like, if you're talking a pedicle screw, if you're on contract, you're charging like maybe $500-$600 a screw, maybe $800 to up to $800. But if it's a list price, it's like thousands of dollars.
Wow.
Holy cow.
And so, the hospitals, and more, the hospital has more and more say, because doctors are becoming employees for a lot of the hospital systems. And so they're taking that kind of out of the surgeon's hands. But the surgeon still has a lot of say in what they use, but they definitely need to talk to the hospital to get on contract, because it's.
Did you ever work with Providence Medical? Anybody in Providence?
No. Texas had a lot of their own networks down there, but again, no problem.
My father-in-law was when he retired just last year, I think, he was the vice president of supply chain. So for all of Providence. And he handled probably a lot of the contracts that, like, when guys like it would come in, it was his signature at the end on the hospital side. And I was talking to him recently, talking about like the cost of devices and the cost of things and how it's changed just so dramatically over the years. He was talking about stents and how like stents used to be like 10 grand or something like that for that little tube.
Yeah.
And now they're like $200 a piece.
Yeah.
Did you see a decline in either the cost of goods you were doing as time went on?
So every year the hospital wants to cut like 10 to 20% off your price. So every year you're getting a cost cut, so you have to make up for that. And the way to do that is through innovation, through new IP, new screws that have new technology coming out, right? It's the newest, it's the greatest, it's the, and so you can usually charge a little bit more for certain things when you're adding on, to a screw to make it better or a device to make it better. And it's a product that nobody else has, right? That's where you're able to kind of keep going, and keep being able to charge a decent amount, because there is a lot that goes into a screw. It's not just the cost of the screw, it's the cost of the rep being there, running all the trays, doing all that stuff as well. So there's a lot of cost built up into those devices as well.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So you were in that field then for how many years total were you doing medical device?
About 8 years total. Yeah.
And you wouldn't go back? I
wouldn't go back. No. No. I mean, I'm comfortable there. I would be able to go back. I got to a point where I was very comfortable. It's a very high stress environment, or can be a very high stress environment. But I learned a lot from being there. One is the biggest thing is the high stress, being able to like operate and be able to think through stressful situations. I wasn't able to do that when I first got in, and I got really good at it. So, when someone's yelling at me in my face, I can be pretty calm. And in this industry, it happens sometimes, not a lot, but, that's one of the things that I learned from that.
Yeah.
This industry being climate control.
Climate control. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a little.
There's some characters.
I don't know if I mean, I'm sure there is God complexes working in like a trades type industry for sure, but it might be more budgetary, meeting budgetary requirements stress versus like I don't know, the God complexes I saw from some physicians. Like I saw legitimate tantrums from people who did really well in school, and then they're thrown into this leadership position, and they're just like really, really mad that nobody's listening to me. I went to this school and did all these things, and why is nobody listening to me? And you have all these RNs that have been RNs for 30 years, and it's like, you better not.
You got the salesman in the back, being like, actually, man, you're great. They should listen to you. You're the guy. And like, you're right. Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah, you kind of have to play that
shoulder massage
for sure. Yeah.
But
exactly.
But yeah, in the climate control, there's or in the just construction and trades, there's definitely that. But I think a lot of it is, it's it just. I haven't been in it for that long, only 5 years, working with these like superintendents in construction on a sales basis. But I feel like even 5-6 years ago, the cost wasn't the first and foremost thing that a lot of these guys were thinking about. They needed stuff done, and they needed it done on time, and that's really what mattered. But now it's like just these last 2 years, cost is just really, really big for these guys.
It has, and especially on certain projects, like if it's a low-income housing or something like that, it's like, dude, and they'll let you know sometimes up front, I don't have a lot of budget for this. So
yeah,
just so you know. And so you kind of have to work with them a little bit sometimes, but what sucks is, bidding a job of what it really, and cutting your price a little bit, knowing that there's going to be competition coming in, and then somebody comes and cuts you like by 50 grand or something like that. It's like, what?
Oh, 50 grand.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I think, the projects have kind of gone down a little bit over this year. And
number of projects.
Yeah. And I think next year with the tariffs and everything, everybody's still kind of, iffy. A lot of projects are pulling back. That we already designed a lot of them and already put our number out for those, sometimes a year in advance, and some of them aren't going. So it's like expanding. We got the maybe going out to Wenatchee this year or down to Portland, something like that to kind of get more projects.
So for those of you listening and you didn't catch that gap there, you were doing medical device sales, and now did you jump straight into climate control from medical device?
No. So,
because you did medical device, then Yeti, and then back to medical
devices. And then I was kind of in the same spot because I'm like, okay, I don't want to do this, but I want to kind of find the next thing, and I'll just be patient, right? Mm-hmm. So, I had the senior spot at Johnson & Johnson. Had the big children's hospital where we did all the deformity.
You must have been making bank too.
Yeah, I mean we were making pretty good money doing.
Don't mean it to my own
doing
horn,
that.
Did you have business card with? Have you ever seen American Psycho? You ever seen that movie?
No.
Oh, dude. All the sales guys are they're showing each other their business cards, and they all look exactly the same, but they're like, check this one out. Because he had them professionally made, and they're all sweating oh gosh, his card is so much better than mine.
I do remember like a clip or something about that. But yeah. So yeah, I had it, and I was still in the same spot. I wasn't very, happy there. I had some friends from my missionary days that are in Utah. Utah has kind of become the Silicon Slopes. They're like all the tech companies are moving there, and everybody, everybody's. So I had a lot of friends down there that were in the tech world, and they invited me to join a startup in the tech world. It was called Ident Solutions, and they had a technology that allowed people to do basically, if a cop pulls someone over, they can put their information in their system and run their information over through a NCIC database and pull up everything about that person, and what if they're a terrorist, if they're if they've had any infractions recently, all this stuff, right? Their criminal history. And so this technology allowed you to take your phone, take the back of their license, scan their license, and run an NCIC on your phone to know whether that person is a threat coming into your facility, especially with critical infrastructure. And so they approached me about this. It was awesome. They were like, the guy who started this had just sold his previous company, and they were flying around in private jets, all across the country trying to grow this business. There were a lot of red flags, but it was kind of like they kind of threw everything at me, and I was like, man, this sounds really good. It's like a really good friend of mine, and I was like, I was kind of on the looking for that next thing, and so I was like, all right, let's do it, And so I got to stay where I was. I in Texas. I worked remotely, and then COVID came, and just totally, if you're relying on visitors to come visit your facilities and the visitors stop because no one visits anywhere, it quickly came to an end, and it was a good little ride, and we would go after mostly colleges, professional sports teams. And I actually sold to Michael Dell in Austin to his residents, because he had people coming into his residence, like gardeners, landscapers, people all over the place, taking care of his his residents. And so we sold it based on that. His security guys in the front would use it to scan people coming in, because when
you say Dell, you mean like Dell the
the computer company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was one of my that was one of my sales. I sold to Texas A&M. They had a guy who's still very, very strong into academic security, making sure that people aren't coming and stealing information. And they had a lot of things going on at Texas A&M that they wanted to vet people coming in who's seeing maybe sensitive information or something. Anyway, but it came to an end. It came to an end very quickly, and they're like, we thought there'd be some kind of like a parachute or something, to kind of help us look, but it was like, your last check is coming in 2 weeks.
Oh man.
And so here I am. I'm like, I was in a super safe, super great job, took this kind of chance, and then it just totally bombed on me.
And you were married at this point?
And I was married.
Yeah.
And I had 2 kids.
Wow.
And a dog.
And let's not forget the dog.
Yeah. And so we didn't have to, but we ended up, we said, hey, let's use this opportunity to kind of maybe get closer to family, kind of shake things up a little bit. We actually sold our house in Texas, back in COVID days, it was kind of cool to move into a trailer, buy a camper, and kind of try to find something remote and kind of travel around. And so I was thinking, okay, let's go to Utah. A lot of my friends are there. There's a lot of tech companies there, a lot of connections, right? And we got up there, and I'm just like, I don't know if I really want to be here. Like I like it here, but I don't know if I really want to be here long term. And she's like, well, we have a lot of time. Let's go up and visit my family. We'll go live on their property because they have some acreage and stuff. And
this is in Utah?
This is here in Paulsville.
Northwest.
And so we came up here and parked our trailer on their property, and still traveled around a little bit, but we eventually found something. Like within a few months, I found a job with Instructure, which is a ed tech company that does like Canvas. Have you guys heard of Canvas?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So they're probably the number one used,
in colleges.
In colleges. Yeah. They pretty much every college was using Canvas.
I think don't they still? I mean,
they still,
I think
they're still the number one.
Like
they're still the number one company operating. It's like an operating system for their courses and stuff. And I would sell like the upgrades. So they got they already bought Canvas, and so there's different upgrades within Canvas that you could use to like video, different video applications and things like that. And that was kind of like hey, I'm going to do this for a little while. Just kind of same thing as kind of hold us together because I kind of had to start over because I'm starting in a brand new industry. I don't know anything in
a brand new
tech, in the tech world. And so I was kind of like in a more of an entry level type position, right? Still did pretty well. I mean, for an entry level position in ed tech, but I had to find something, and that's when Axis came up. So
Climate.
Yeah.
What part of Texas were you in?
I was in Austin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we lived.
That's the place to be now.
Yeah, in Barton Creek for a while, which is right next to downtown, and then we had eventually bought a house out in Liberty Hill.
West, I don't know where Liberty Hill is, but I forget the name of the town north of Austin. I have a friend that moved west of Austin. I think they call it the Hill Country out there. I'm not too familiar with.
Yeah, Dripping Springs.
Yeah, Dripping Springs. That's where he's at. It's freaking gorgeous.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I had no idea how beautiful. I mean, because my dad moved down west of Dallas, and it's nice. I really like Texas.
Yeah, but it's nothing like that.
Dude, that Hill Country's pretty.
It's awesome. Yeah, and Austin was my favorite place. I mean, it was a great place to live.
Yeah.
Lots of family-oriented stuff, lots of lots of restaurants that wanted you to bring your kids, and they had like barns and play things. And have you guys ever been out to that cidery out in Chimacum?
Finn River.
Okay. Like that, like Finn River, but like all over the place. Like every place was like that.
Yeah.
Where it's just like watch the kids play while you eat and have a drink. It was like awesome.
Yeah.
But
a lot of people are moving to Austin right now. That's where Rogan moved out there, and his whole setup's out there. And I think he's pulling in all these other people that he's friends with. They're like, yeah, Austin's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And everybody's going there.
Yeah.
And housing's still affordable out there. You can buy a nice house for like $400,000.
You can.
Versus up here, man.
I tell my wife that all the time.
And you guys moved to Bainbridge of all places for in the housing market here in Kitsap. For everybody listening, Bainbridge is probably our highest.
And I just got lucky. I just found a good spot, and we approached the guy off. It was off market, and
nice.
We knew he was trying to sell it, but he had pulled it off, so he was motivated, And so we got lucky and got in at a decent price. It was more for the land than it was for the house, because the house is like 100-year-old, 1,000 square foot. We're comfy in there for sure.
Yeah.
But I felt like with the location of it, right across the street from Battle Point Park. We're like 200 yards from the ocean.
Oh, dude, that's cool.
Awesome.
We walk out to get our mail, and it's like the Olympics with the ocean right there. And it's like, I want my kids to grow up here. I don't care.
Yeah.
And for the money, I mean, we could have went to Texas and bought like a huge, awesome house. But I it's hard. But it is what it is. And we're trying to figure it out where one day, we can build there. We keep we keep kind of going back and forth. Should we just, buy a house that's perfect for us? Well, then we'll have to move, have to go, to a different.
And this is such an.
We're dealing with the same thing. So we bought 6 acres. We have lakefront, gorgeous. I mean, we have old growth on our property, but our house, it's a double wide manufactured home. And, we have this, mortgage currently, and really what it is a mortgage on the land. And we've talked about building versus selling and going to Texas. And same thing. Like I want my kids to grow up here. Like my kids run out naked and they can be out in the woods all day and come back in the evening, which is awesome. But building a house right now, it's like it doubles the mortgage. It's like, okay, do I want to sell this and go be mortgage free in Texas, or do I want to stay here and potentially double my mortgage? But it's only going to increase in value over time. Yeah. Especially on like Bainbridge Island. Yeah. If you build, you're just going to get that instant equity.
It's been, that's true. And it's been we got a deal on it. But the equity we built up just in the short amount of time that we've been there is like unbelievable, like $200,000.
When did you guys buy?
Right before everything, all the interest rates went up.
So you got one that's low.
3%. That's another thing, because it's like, well, if I buy a house, it's going to be more. Yep. We're not going to be able to afford that same house or same property.
I told my wife the only way it would work is if we use the equity and we'd move somewhere and be mortgage free. Like we pay it cash, it's done. Because going and getting a 7%, 8% interest rate right now sounds terrible.
Yeah. So it's like just trying to figure out how we do it. We were always back. We talk about that more than anything. It's just like, how we're going to, work around it. And there are some, development opportunities that we could do there, but then it's like, okay, then they're going to have to come and cut down all these old growth trees. And I don't want to do that either, but it's like, if someone else comes and buys my property, I know for sure that they're going to do something like that. Yeah. Because it's like, if we do have to leave, it might as well be us, than somebody else coming in and, building
something awesome.
$1.5 million homes,
How many acres do you have?
It's 0.6. Okay. But right next door, they did the same thing. They cleared about the same amount of space, put 2 big homes. They sold for $1.2 million each. And now they're like $1.5 million. So we're like the oldest house on the block, kind of like right next to these brand new homes. And then, you have enough to be able to do exactly what they did there. But it's tempting, but it's also kind of like, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, for sure. So are you from, you started your story down in California. Is that where you're from originally?
No. Or? So I'm from Chicago.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. What part of Chicago?
So the western suburbs, about 25 miles out, Wheaton, Naperville area.
Dude, that's where my corporate office is.
Oh, really?
It's in Lyle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right next to...
I stayed in Naperville. And is it Naperville?
Naperville.
Dude, that's a bougie neighborhood.
Yeah.
Those guys, dude, those houses are insane.
Yeah, it's incredible there. And that whole area is just like, just huge mansions, mini mansions, Naperville's crazy.
There's a lot of corporate offices that, like when I was back there, I'm seeing all these names and up on the buildings. I'm like, oh my gosh, like they're all based here. Yeah. Like that's crazy. Yeah. So it's a cool area. I like it. It is. I like Chicagoland is nice.
Have you been downtown?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. We went downtown.
Nice.
Yeah. It was an experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like,
was it in the winter or in the summer?
We were in the summer.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's a good time to go.
Yeah, we were told, actually, the guy I was with, he was like, just stay close to me. I know you've heard probably a lot of stuff on the news. It's not that bad. Then we went down there and it's like, let's go inside.
Yeah, yeah. There's parts, you just want to stay away from, but like anything, it's like, everyone tells you it's the most dangerous city, and you go there and you're kind of like, there's parts of Seattle too that are better than others. You just stay out of those other spots. But
Seattle's gotten a lot better than it was a couple of years ago.
It has. I've noticed that.
Big improvement.
Yeah.
Looks better too.
Yeah, for sure.
So you grew up in Chicago?
Grew up in Chicago. My whole family's from there. Nobody's there anymore. And everyone moved out. My grandparents, my grandpa built a big business there. And everyone kind of retired.
What was his business?
So he started a tool and die company a long time ago, and it became a pretty big thing in Chicago. There's these Marina Towers downtown that are like iconic in Chicago, and he built the railings on that building, and they're still there today. Cool. So it's kind of like
what's his
kind
name?
of cool being a part. Edward Spencer. Yeah. And but he's always been a hero of mine. But
yeah, a bit of an inspiration.
Yeah, for sure.
That's cool. You're carrying the torch.
Yes, exactly. So when I wanted Chicago to be kind of still be a cool place for us to visit. So I actually brought my wife there to propose to her.
Oh, cool.
I took her to a Fan of the Opera play. And let's see, what else? So I gave her this snow globe, and it has the Sears Tower, John Hancock Tower. It's got the water tower and all these iconic buildings, and the Marina Towers, which
it's all in there.
It's all in the snow globe. Anyway, so I took her to the top of the Sears Tower, took her to the top of the John Hancock, took her to the play, and then I proposed to her in front of the water tower, the water tower was the only building standing when the Chicago fires happened. Okay. And then we had dinner up in the John Hancock.
What a day!
Building. Yeah, it was pretty sweet.
Dang, man,
it was pretty cool. But now we have something, that kind of keeps it special, so that we, want to go back and visit.
Right. You have history in Chicago still. Your family.
Exactly. Yeah. But it was a great place to grow up.
Do you miss the area?
I do miss it. I do miss parts of it. Other parts no, but it was a great place to grow up.
So when did you leave Chicago? What year?
So I went out to school. I grew up there. Went on my mission. I was a missionary in Mexico for 2 years.
Mormon?
Mormon missionary. And then I went to school in Idaho, in Rexburg, Idaho, at BYU. BYU, Idaho has a campus in Rexburg, and it's about 45 minutes from Jackson, Wyoming, which was a really cool. It was a really cool area. Yeah. You have the Tetons in the background.
Is that cool. There's like a valley in like eastern Idaho, and then
Snake River,
and then you climb the pass right up to Jackson.
So they have. So on one side of the mountains, there's you have Jackson, and on the other side you have I'm blanking on the name, but yeah, there's another town.
It's really pretty.
And then a pass in between that you have to go. And there's a ski resort up there. That's where we would do snowboarding classes, skiing classes. Mm-hmm. We get on a bus and go up there to that resort up there to go skiing. Really cool. And then I came back to Chicago after I graduated. And that's where I started into the medical stuff, and then moved to Austin with Johnson & Johnson. I started with Johnson & Johnson in Chicago, and then transferred with them to Austin.
That transition from college to getting into Johnson & Johnson, you had said it's really hard to get into.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, what was the process getting into Johnson & Johnson?
So, so I was selling durable medical equipment, which was like oxygen, CPAP machines, and like electric wheelchairs. Mm-hmm. So just the bottom level stuff, entry level stuff. And eventually I lost my job. It was just like small mom and pop type companies. And I lost my job. I started working for my uncle and my grandpa in the shop, and just kind of doing whatever in the warehouse and stuff, like stamping things, right? Which is not the most fun work. But I had to do something to kind of keep things going. Yeah. And my dad is a dentist in Glen Ellen, and he was a dentist in Glen Ellen. And he had somebody that was working for him that had a nephew that was in medical devices, and said he was doing really well, and he heard all these great things about it, and he was like, Jordan, you have to look into this, and I think I could set up a meeting with him, and you can see what it is. So we set up a meeting. I met with him and his manager, and they basically told me, no, you don't have enough experience, you don't have enough to be able to do this. You don't know anatomy, physiology. I'd like to maybe come back later, and also we don't have any positions right now, so you'll have to come back. And so that kind of pissed me off a little bit.
Thanks for dinner, though.
Yeah, I was like, I'm getting into this industry. I don't care what. And so I found this school. I was like, okay, so what can I do to learn more about this industry, about anatomy, physiology? I found this school out in Denver, Colorado, that actually was started by ex-medical device reps. And I think it's right now it's called like Medical Sales College now, but it was another name when I
get emails from them monthly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're like, you want to go to this college? I'm like, no, that's okay.
Yeah. So I actually was like, oh, this is cool. I can learn. I can take this course. It was like a 10-week course. Part of it was at home. Part of it was in Denver. And I was like, and maybe this would give me the edge to be able to get in. And so I sold everything I had. I moved out to Denver, Colorado. At the time, my cousin was living out there. And so I moved into his basement and went to the school. And
wow.
Yeah. And I graduated second in my class, which almost first in my class. This teacher beat me like by a couple points, which I wasn't mad about because he's a teacher. He should be. And then from there, I came back to Chicago, and within 3 months, I got a job with a distributorship for Johnson & Johnson at the time. They weren't direct. They went through distributors at the time. So the distributor would sell their stuff and run the business, and Johnson & Johnson was kind of like, and then when I joined, Johnson & Johnson said, okay, we're going to buy up all the distributors and everyone's going to come work direct. So, yeah.
Did that program, did they do like did you get your surgical tech's license or anything?
Nothing, no kind of license. There's not really a license in it. It's just all that knowledge that you need to be able to sell the devices and present yourself. They actually had a recruiting arm as well. So they would have companies recruit out of their college. And just the fact that I went through all that and was able to tell that story, I think gave me the edge to be able to get into some of these companies because they thought, these guys thought it was awesome that I took those extra steps to learn and then they, in the interview, they would have a picture of like a huge model of a spine. They'd be like, what's this? What's this? What's this? And I could name everything because I had learned all. And they're like, okay, cool. All right, you're hired,
Wow.
And then from that point, you start out as an associate rep. You're running trays for all the outside sales reps. You're setting up surgeries. Eventually, they let you into some of the simple surgeries and start covering for them because they usually have multiple going on at the same time. So they need people to associates to kind of jump around and help them out. And so you learn very quickly, like the industry, how to cover a surgery, all that kind of stuff, all the tools. You have to know everything inside and out. Wow. And then within like 6 months, I was able to move up into a outside sales
Do they
role.
give you formal? I mean, I know like surgical techs, or even like as an emergency tech, or even as a CNA working in the hospital. Like you have to have some sort of knowledge of like sterile procedure and how to hand things. Like, did you do any formal training for that, or is that just kind of like on the job training and you were just in the surgery?
So we don't get to scrub in and do any of that. I did get to do that in Costa Rica. I did some medical mission trips there, where they actually let you scrub in and pass tools and stuff. But as a rep, you don't really get to do that. You do have to have some knowledge. I mean, there's obviously things in the room, everything that's draped in blue, you're not supposed to touch, and you have to you can't reach over anything either. You have to have your little laser or whatever if you want to point,
oh my goodness.
Oh, grab that right here, grab this right here, I'll put this together.
So as a rep in the surgery, that's what you were doing, is you were kind of like helping the doctor figure out how to use your tool with. Right.
And making sure, knowing where he's at in his surgery, knowing what part he's in, especially with a big deformity.
That's terrifying.
I mean, it's a major surgery. Having the right tools up on the table at the right time for knowing where he's at in the surgery, and having the right things that.
And would you guide like the surgical techs, like getting the tools up and staying everything sterile? Yeah. So you would tell them what to do.
Yeah, and if there was a new product that came out, we'd have to in-service them so that they know how to use it, so that when we get into surgery, it's not like their first time touching it. So it's like teaching them how to do it so it's smooth. So it's like, because you have like a bump, like little bumps, the doctor gets like super pissed, if it's not smooth. So I'd show up super early to the surgeries. I'd get all the trays up and set out and equipment on. I took care of like a lot of stuff that most reps probably wouldn't do, but I'd go kind of above and beyond and get everything ready in the room and help the techs out.
That's why everybody loves you, Jordan.
Yeah. All this comes back to, Axis and everything I've learned and what I kind of put into what I do. But, there's a lot, being on top of everything. I mean, it taught me a lot.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Does that kind of drive that you have, is that being carried forward from your grandfather, from your dad, or is this something that where you were kind of like, there was a time in because I'm wondering, I know you talked about the medical part of things and how you're basically always on, and you're always thinking, and you're always having to, and there's not enough time off.
That
time away from
I struggle with that a little bit. Yeah. And be able to turn it off at right times.
Right.
And that's something that I need to do better at, because my mind just kind of keeps going, and just even with this, I mean, it's hard. But when I do take a vacation, when I do take off and take some time off, I can turn off I don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
Now I have guys in the early days, I had to run all my own AC units, run to Portland to drop off an emergency AC unit or whatever, so I was involved in all that stuff. Now I have guys, everybody's, running, and I'm just taking the call and setting up in the system and go.
That's awesome.
So it's gotten a lot easier to kind of step back and focus on what, I'm need to be focusing on,
It's amazing how much of sales, Michael and I have talked about this before. It's like, how could you imagine yourself, like, you're graduating high school and it's like, yeah, I'm going to be a sales guy. It's like, it was more something, I wanted to be like a park ranger or something. Eventually I got into medical, and it's like, okay, I want to be a physician's assistant. And all of a sudden you find yourself in sales. And so much of what you do in other industries and just like basic customer service and just human decency, and you can be such a successful salesperson. And make really good money doing it. And so when I talk to especially younger guys and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do, it's like, dude, I ran into there was a kid at Chick-fil-A that I was talking to a couple months ago, and it's like, dude, you're set, like, what you do here at Chick-fil-A, you've set yourself up for a really successful sales position pretty much anywhere with your customer service, your smile, and just willingness to help people. You can be so successful and you don't even know it. So
and a lot of these opportunities, like, whoever knew that this, I didn't know that this like kind of opportunity was out there. Or, you hear about all the glamorous ones, but there's so many opportunities in sales to make just as much money or more than these guys that are running these trays and jumping through hoops for these, assholes. Right? It's like, there's so many better things that you can do, and you can make just as much money or more than them. So it's like, and I feel like a lot of people in school don't know that these jobs exist. Nobody really talks about the good sales jobs out there,
Yeah, I had no idea until I was out of a job. And Adam was like, he didn't even know I was out of a job, but he was like, you want to try sales? I was like, sure, try something.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh my God.
Yeah. I knew right off just knowing Michael's personality. I'm like, dude, you would be so good in sales. Like it's
most of it's about relationships. Most of it's about, building trust and,
Quick shout out to your brother-in-law, Alexander Zell, speaking of relationships.
Nice.
Because that was the
that
was the first year of mine, and I was like, Adam had been advising me, get relationships. We
went out to eat.
Make connections. And then Alexander was just wanted to, for some reason, he was like, oh, I think I know somebody who might be vaguely associated with what you're trying to do. And it was like, maybe you want to talk to him. And he set up that dinner with the two of us. And I was like, yeah, dude, it was, and then
that was huge.
Oh,
yeah. He's a good connector for sure.
He is.
Yeah.
Is he in sales right now? What's he doing?
Yeah, he's doing, he works for like a landscaping company. Then they kind of do
big time landscaping.
Yeah, the stuff like, the big buildings that, when they get done.
So he finds jobs for him?
Yeah. But they do all the pots, the big, huge pots and trees and landscaping that goes on the top of the building.
Tiles.
Dog runs that go inside the building, so they don't people don't have to go outside, stuff like that. I think they do all that kind of stuff. It's
amazing. Like you said, sales jobs for stuff that like you didn't even realize. Like I was talking to a guy recently who does he does roofing sales. He just gets roofing jobs. He makes insane money.
Oh, I'm sure. Is it Integrity or
it's one of the local roofing companies. I forget which. Valentine, I think maybe is where he works, but his commission structure is insane. And
that's awesome.
It's like, he's pushing up above $250,000 just off commission. It's like, awesome. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
And I think I had heard recently from somebody in my inner circle that, people thinking that sales folks are just glorified order takers. And you see larger companies that take that stance, and then it goes the way of, oh, well, people can make their sales decisions online. They can do their own research. They already know what they're going to buy, and they'll just do it all. And I think what I see from larger companies that take that approach is, yes, they might get a lot of initial sales, but retention of customers because of that lack of customer service experience goes down, versus a local company with a local salesperson. You can call and trust that person to help you through a process of making a decision. Is so valuable.
Oh, for sure. Especially in this industry. I mean, these guys, they don't want to have to deal with this stuff. They don't want to have to deal with where they're going to put the propane tanks, how that's all going to work out, where they're, they want that as much as we can take off their plate, the better it is for them. Right. And if you can do that, and you can be confident in your plan and confident when you show up, you get it every time. I mean, it's just like, I mean, you when we walked into Leidig for the data center and that job, I mean, we got it in like 3 days. It was like, we walked in, we had the meeting, like that same day or the next day we got it. It was like, we walked in, we had a plan, we had confidence, we had a good plan for the tank, because it was one huge, massive tank out of their way. We thought through those processes. That's what they want to see. They want to see that you thought through all these things. Nobody else is doing that. Nobody else is building the relationships on a level that we're building them. I'm even showing up to jobs that we lost to see how it goes, see how the other company set it up, see how it's running for them, especially when it gets cold. And continuing to build that relationship. Most guys just, I lost that one, I'm walking away from it. No, I mean, you could still get something in the heat.
There's a future
in the cold. Like, hey, this stuff isn't working. I need more. Well, what do you need? Let me, and then you can get supplemental stuff out of it. But it's like the I don't know. There's a lot of guys that don't do that in this industry, which is great.
What's at the center of the thing that drives you? What drives you to be like that?
Oh man.
Such a big question, Michael.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I mean,
what's the meaning of life, Jordan?
Well, because that drive is not a universal trait.
Yeah.
It's not something.
I think it's kind of changed over the years. Yeah. It's not something that, I mean, when it was just me, my drive, it wasn't as hard. I mean, I did my job and I did well, but it wasn't until I got married, got a family, had people to watch after and take care of, that it really started to, take off. But just little things like guy, I probably shouldn't say this.
We'll bleep it out.
Yeah. But little things that people say in the industry, sometimes it may not be the best thing to drive you, but I get driven by people saying something about what what.
Oh, so it's like proving people wrong.
Yeah, proving people wrong.
Yeah.
Have a chip on my shoulder.
Yeah.
And joining Axis,
that kind of rings true based on that meeting that you had in Chicago, where they said, "Yeah, this is a great industry, but you're not ready, and you don't have what it takes."
Right.
And so that was what drove you.
Yeah, and Axis, like them not knowing who I was, or if I could come in and be the right person for them, that drives me. Like, I'll show you, kind of thing. It's like, no, I'll prove it to you.
You had mentioned confidence in your sales strategy, and I think you've probably picked a lot of that up from being in the medical device sales, and just me personally seeing you in like a sales meeting and being present or a fly on the wall, and you can anybody listening that does sales can take this for any industry that you're working sales in, but your confidence going into these meetings, like that job down in Oregon, and you just went in, and I've changed my personal approach to sales because I think of that meeting, because what I saw you do, there's a lot of me asking the customer, well, what do you want? What can I do for you? Am I charging you too much? What are other stuff? And you just went in there and you're like, where's the site plan? And you were the one that led everybody over. You're like, walked over, you're like pointing here, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
Looking at the guy, he's like, that worked for you.
That's what they want in this
You
industry.
just took full charge. And I was like, do that confidence, and within a day the guy's like, this is the guy for the job. And I don't think people don't do that.
Yeah.
And I think there's other people like not that climate control for, as an example is like necessarily a entry level position, but probably a lot of entry level guys that don't have that success, don't have the experience, but you have that experience. And so you're able to kind of go above and beyond what a lot of guys do in this industry.
These guys want you to lead them. They want you to be in charge and just take that off your plate. And if you're not confident walking in there, they're thinking, oh man, we're going to have to do a lot on our part. Right. Mm-hmm. And so if I can lead them down the road of going with us, even though they haven't signed with us, hey, let's figure out what your CFH is on your meter. Do you have enough capacity to run the heaters that we're even proposing? What does a run look like? If you can give them a run plan and go, and before you even get the job and you're leading them down the road like you already have it, they're not going to turn around and go to somebody else and have to go through all this again with somebody else. When you've already gone in there, you'd already kind of shown them the way it's going to go. You've asked specifics about what we're connecting to, whatever, where the tanks go. If we can go in there and say, these are the setbacks, we have a tank plan, we have a hose run plan. They don't want to go to another company and be like, let's go backwards and start over with these guys that don't know what's going on. We've already gone this far with these guys. Right. And so I think one thing that I think about a lot, because I have this like kind of quote up in my truck, and it was something I learned from Andy Frischella. Do you guys watch Andy Frischella? Anyway, he has a podcast. Okay. Yeah. It's the Real AF podcast. Anyway,
I've heard of the Real AF. I don't really know.
Yeah, he's cool. He owns a big nutrition company and
oh wait, is this the Andy? Is this like the big muscular bald Andy guy?
Yeah, 75 hard, 75 hard guy.
I know who you're talking about.
Anyway, so he said there's three keys to success, and one of them, the first one is hard work. And some people think, and you have to have all three of them to be able to be successful in anything, right? And so the first one is hard work. And some people think, well, I've worked hard. Why am I not, getting anything from this, right? Why am I not? I've done my part. Like, why am I not successful? Well, there's more to it than just like going out there and busting your ass, right? So the next one is gain high skills, right? So you're going out there and you're gaining those high skills from getting on projects, from learning from your mistakes, from doing from taking action and and developing these high skills, and that way you get confidence and you get the trust because you know what you're talking about when you go in there.
Right. Yeah.
The third one is, you can work hard and you can develop those high skills, but then you have to be, and he says it, aggressively patient in your actions and your developing those skills
aggressively.
And that's tough. That's tough for me because like I also want it now. Everyone wants it instantly, right? But you have to be aggressively patient, which means not just patient sitting back and doing nothing, but it's like, no, like go after it, continue getting into those projects, continue to fail, continue to learn, because that's where you're going to keep developing those high skills, high level skills, and just get that much better. And as you get that much better,
aggressive patience is like not being discouraged.
Yeah, because
when things aren't going your way.
And it's not just going to be like, if I work hard and develop these skills, like after a year, I'm just going to get it. No, it's sometimes it takes more than that. It's like it's being aggressively patient as you're going through all this stuff. And it's so hard sometimes. You just want, especially when we were talking about earlier, like salaries and stuff like that. Like, running into a territory where you're used to making this and you're coming down making 60 grand a year or whatever it is or less. It's like, man, I gotta go. Like, I gotta, like, I don't have time to mess around here,
Yeah.
And being patient in the process is like, going through what your family's going through, cause you can't, you just had a baby and you have all these, medical bills, and like, it's like, I can't do it, and just, you have to be, you have to keep going, but
resilience.
Yeah.
Honey, what are you doing in the office? I'm being aggressively patient.
Yeah, exactly.
Right on. Well, thanks for joining us this morning, Jordan. I think we're coming up on time.
What's your plug for Access?
What's your plug?
I mean,
AC season's coming.
The floor is yours.
Air conditioning's coming.
Yeah. I mean, any kind of temporary air conditioning need, it's more emergency type situations, right? Your building HVAC goes down. You need something in a pinch. We can get to you in a matter of hours and come up with a solution. I'm usually the one that comes out. I'll do a job walk. I'll figure out where we're going to exhaust the hot air, get you guys, cooled down and in a good spot. But yeah, you can find us online, accessair.com. And yeah.
Sweet. Awesome.
Sweet.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good week.
Thanks, Jordan.